Number 9. The Ferrari F40 of Saddam Hussein's son. In 2020, during the peak of COVID-19, a car enthusiast and YouTuber named Scott Chivers, or Rada Rosa, was delivered unbelievable news. An abandoned Ferrari F40 was left at a service station in Iraq. Chivers was amazed, but there was something else. The car actually belonged to the son of Saddam Hussein. The son, Uday, was just as much of a car fanatic as Chivers. He amassed a large collection of sports cars and supercars during his father's reign of terror. Out of the entire collection, the F40 was his pride and joy. Many of Uday's other vehicles were reportedly burned and destroyed by his father, supposedly to teach his wayward son a lesson. It was a miracle the Ferrari was left unscathed. As any good YouTuber would do, Chivers posted a video about the car while figuring out how to get it out of the country. After all, it was the middle of the pandemic when travel restrictions were swinging in full force. The car also came with some political baggage, thanks to its previous owner, so as a result, it was unlikely Iraqi officials would let it be taken out of the country. The F40 wasn't in great condition either. It was covered in dust and grime, which had even seeped into the interior of the vehicle through the vents. The supposed new owner of the vehicle also wanted a very steep price, $1.3 million. It wouldn't just be the Iraqi authorities that didn't want the car sold. Saddam Hussein's daughter also put out a message threatening anyone who helped take the car out of the country. With all things said and done, Chivers started having second thoughts about taking the car home. Sadly, the F40 still remains abandoned in Iraq to this day. At number 8, a Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren. In the Czech Republic, a Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren was left abandoned among the weeds. Its intricate white paintwork is now covered in grime, and it's even got moss growing on it. But why is such an amazing car just rotting away? Well, the Mercedes is actually inside a police impound lot. The car was involved in a complex case involving theft and a leasing company. Due to the scale of the investigation and the inquiry, it has still not been solved. Because of this, the car has sat abandoned, unable to be moved or sold until the case is closed. It's pretty sad that one of the fastest supercars of its time and a collaboration between two of the world's most iconic brands is just sitting untouched. Who knows if the car can even run anymore? Number 7. The Abandoned Supercars of the United Arab Emirates. You might think it'd be rare that someone would have to get rid of their luxury supercar, but there is one place in the world where thousands of expensive cars are abandoned each year. The problem belongs to the United Arab Emirates. The abandoned cars have become so common that news is spread all over the world. One of the cars that was left is a Ferrari Enzo. The vehicle, which is worth over $1 million, has been sitting for so long that you can barely see its paint job underneath all the dust. People were outraged at the fact that such an iconic car was abandoned. Some even incorrectly blamed citizens of the United Arab Emirates for being so rich that they simply didn't care about their vehicles once they had a new one. They thought they simply left them on the side of the road and forgot about them. But the real reason why all these supercars are abandoned is much more serious. Most of the cars were bought by people who moved to expensive cities like Dubai in search of high-paying jobs. But when the financial crisis hit and oil prices fell, many found themselves unable to afford their luxury cars. Debt is a serious crime in the United Arab Emirates, so many chose to flee the country to avoid legal charges being brought against them. Even defaulting on a credit card or a loan payment could land a person in prison, and prison facilities in the UAE are some of the toughest in the world. This is why many of the cars are left in or near airport car parks. Some of them still have the keys in the ignition. It's believed that the Ferrari Enzo we mentioned earlier belonged to a British expat, but there are many other cars found on the streets. The vehicles are only really moved if they cause an obstruction to the flow of traffic or work, since there are simply too many of them for officials to keep up with. Other than the Ferrari, there's cars such as Lamborghinis, Porsches, Bentleys, Nissan Skylines, and even a Honda NSX has been found. When the authorities finally impound the vehicles, they're often sent straight to auction. Lucky bidders can then purchase them at a fraction of the cost that would have been originally, meaning almost anyone can snap up a supercar. Let's just hope that they can keep up the repayments, otherwise the cycle will just repeat. If you had the chance to buy a supercar for cheap, which one would you get? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget, hit that subscribe button. At number 6, a Porsche 911 Targa S. In 2016, a new homeowner made an incredible discovery in his recently bought barn. There, rotting in the back, was a Porsche 911 Targa S. Although there are many 911s in the world, this one is special. It's one of the very first Targas ever made. It was originally built in 1969. Only 925 were ever made with the same S engine, short wheelbase, and soft window. But after being bought new, the Porsche was left in a garage for decades from 1977 to 2016 when it was found. That's 39 years. Although the car was in a sorry state after being abandoned, the new owner decided they would fix it up, so he sent it to Porsche Classic for restoration. The car was rusting and very rare. As a result, it was not a quick job for the restorers, who had to source parts for the over 50-year-old Porsche. Some of the parts even had to be remade by hand, like the soft window and the roof covering. Artisans had to produce a near-identical roof cover, and even went as far as copying the exact stitching that would have been on the original. With everything painstakingly restored and with a fresh coat of red paint, the 911 Targa looked like it did when it rolled out of the factory. Its new owner did have a lot of patience, considering the restoration took more than 3 years to finish. At number 5, a Mercedes 300 SL. Not many classic cars are as striking as the Mercedes 300 SL. This 50s motor, with its curving chassis and futuristic doors, is considered one of the most beautiful cars Mercedes-Benz has ever made. But in Cuba, one of these vehicles has become a sort of a legend. Not because it was in an automotive museum, but instead, it was abandoned in the middle of nowhere, with only a few people knowing its location. This didn't stop car photographer Piotr Degler, who had been photographing other vehicles on the island in 2014. For a while, Cuba's car scene was stuck in the 1950s, thanks to poor relations with the US, when he heard about the legendary Mercedes. This prompted Degler to go on a 2,000-mile hunt across the country to find the vehicle. Everywhere he went, he asked people whether they had heard anything about the Mercedes, and after almost a month, things seemed hopeless. That was until the last few days of Degler's trip to Cuba, when he finally found the car sitting under a banana tree. It was in poor shape, with one of its gullwing doors slightly ajar, its engine missing, and a rusting hole in its hood. Its headlights had long since been broken out of their casings, and plants were growing up and around the wheels. Degler took care while photographing the car, spending the entire day capturing it inside and out before returning home. Thankfully, this meant that others would see the vintage Mercedes motor without having to travel all the way to Cuba. Number 4. 144 exotic cars in Vietnam. In a Vietnam warehouse, there's not just one supercar wasting away, but 144 of them. As you would expect, there are some impressive names among the cars, including a Ferrari F40 Spider, a Maserati Gran Turismo, multiple Rolls-Royces, Range Rovers, Mercedes, and many more. Their value could easily be in the tens of millions of dollars. But why are all of these amazing cars just sitting inside? The vehicles were impounded by officials in Hanoi back in 2013 after a car trafficking operation was uncovered. The size of the trafficking ring was substantial, with over 600 high-end cars having illegally entered Vietnam. On May 5, 2013, Vietnamese authorities made arrests after discovering 15 vehicles traveling to China. The information on the rest of the cars soon followed, leading them to be seized and brought to the warehouse that they now call home. The question remains as to what the Vietnamese authorities will do with the cars, especially since they've been left for so long. It's unclear whether they're still being held as evidence or for further prosecutions, but it seems likely that they will follow the lead of other countries and perhaps one day be put up for auction. Number 3. The Gallery of Abandoned Supercars. Pictures feature a Bugatti rusting away in the woods. Another photo shows a Veyron collecting dust in a garage, resting on a wooden pallet next to a bag of trash. In others, cobwebs cover Pagani Huayras sitting in the dark, with their striking silver and neon green paint jobs no longer gleaming. Other sorry vehicles include a Ferrari, a Rolls-Royce, and a Lamborghini. each of them caked in layers of dust. But who would do this to some of the most beautiful supercars on the planet? It was Fabian Oberhammer. And there is one bright side. The images aren't actually real. They are 3D renders created by the digital artist. So what inspired Oberhammer, who goes by Dizzy Viper online, to create this artwork? He chose to use new and expensive cars as the centerpieces for his art, since it's unthinkable that someone would want to abandon them. Oberhammer's goal was to show how, as fossil fuel reserves run out, cars like this with conventional combustion engines will soon become obsolete. Some people have become so convinced by Oberhammer's artwork that they've even offered to buy the cars in the pictures. The artist reported that one man approached him offering $800,000 for the Ferrari shown in his work. Although it's not real now, the shape of the automotive industry is quickly changing, with more and more vehicles switching to electric power, including some supercars. Who knows when photos like those that Oberhammer has imagined will become reality. Number 2. The destroyed supercars of Typhoon Hinnamnor. Typhoon Hinnamnor swept across South Korea in October of 2022, hitting the capital city, Seoul. Widespread flooding caused chaos, death, and destruction around the country. Among the casualties were some of the world's most expensive supercars: a $500,000 Lamborghini Aventador, a $200,000 Lamborghini Huracan, and a $190,000 McLaren 570S were just a few wrecked by the floodwaters. The vehicles were coated in mud and trash that had collected as the water surged around them before receding. One Porsche even had a trash bag on top of its hood and was so caked in mud that it looked like it just got a brown paint job. It's unknown exactly how many cars were lost, but the value is expected to be in the millions. Number 1. A 1962 Aston Martin DB4. Looking at the pictures on eBay of this rusted old sports car, its teal blue paint job spotted with rust and grime would probably make you think it should just be scrapped. But the listing price for this vehicle was $325,000, and for good reason. The car, even in its sorry state, is a 1962 Aston Martin DB4. It was left in a barn for over 30 years, but it does have a sweet story. The car's original owner was the manager of a body shop and decided to make repairs on the Aston Martin himself. One of his employees worked tirelessly with him to fix up the motor, after which his boss ended up giving him the car. The employee brought it home to continue restoring it, but sadly never got around to it, so his hard work sat rusting in the barn just outside of New York. The interior is in poor condition as well. The leather seats are dried up and cracked, and the footwells are full of grime and debris. The sheer amount of dust around the gear stick is a testament to the fact that the vehicle hasn't moved in years. So why was it listed for such a high price? It's because whoever buys this car will probably make a huge profit. Although it will cost a small fortune to restore and likely take a few years, once back to its former glory, its price tag could reach into the millions. A restored 1962 Aston Martin DB4 was put up for sale in Sotheby's auction house back in 2021. The final price at the end of the bidding was a whopping $9,520,000. Talk about a return on your investment. Thanks for watching. Which one of these abandoned exotic cars did you find to be the most tragic? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next time.